Welcome to Koffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person.
Dan, invariably I say to you when we finish one of our Koffee Talks podcasts, we've just spent 40 minutes talking about absolutely nothing. And of course, one of the most iconic shows in American history is Seinfeld, which that was the entire premise of the show. When they went to sell it to the network was, we're going to do this show and we're going to do 30 minutes of absolutely nothing. And it turned out to be the best thing in the world. So it's just a matter of time before this all catches on, right, Dan?
Hopefully, yeah. I take us being as popular as Seinfeld.
Okay, that makes sense. So at least it's. See, I didn't know you ever watched any US TV. I know you're pretty much just binge watching the UK, series and stuff. Like give me a name of a newsworthy binge watching UK series that you enjoy on the daily.
Well, I'll say I haven't actually watched Seinfeld. I do watch a lot of US TV, but I haven't watched Seinfeld. I don't know. UK doesn't make TV that's as binge worthy as the US because when we do shows, normally it's like much shorter seasons. So seasons are like 6 to 8 episodes, and some of the like drama shows where like the police drama TV shows, which I do quite like, if they're like 90-minute 2-hour episodes, there's only 3 or 4 episodes per season. Whereas the US TV shows, even like sitcoms and stuff, they're doing 23, 24 episodes per season. So it's a lot easier to binge watch the US shows because there's always so much to catch up on.
Well, it's nice that you can maintain some loyalty to the heritage, Dan, and find a rationalization for everything that you do. It really, I think our audience really appreciates that. Dan, I watched a video of yours today. Well, that's saying something. And you always refer to these videos that you put out every other Wednesday as a fortnight video. So
Yeah.
I keep going on there and I'm looking and saying because I bring my son Luke on, he loves Fortnite, and I'm like, where is the Fortnite stuff? I can't see forts being built. I don't see people hiding from other people. The violence isn't there. Dan, what am I missing from these every other Wednesday Fortnite videos?
Fortnight means 2 weeks.
Well, where does it mean that, Dan? Is that like, are we back to the European version? Is this an actual across the world meaning for this word?
I think so. I think it might be one of those things where it's everywhere except the US. There's a lot
Okay,
of
and so
those.
while you're using it incessantly in the US to refer to these upcoming videos, you're pretty much expecting our audience or the audience for those videos to go out and figure out exactly what that means and that it's not got nothing to do with the video game.
Hopefully. And if we get some views from people who are thinking they're going to see Fortnite the video game, that's fine. We'll take those views as well.
That makes sense, Dan. And I will tell you that when I looked this morning, your number was 9.88 subscribers. That's getting very close to 10,000. So people are actually figuring out, despite your mystery product in your videos, and I don't mean that you're selling mystery products and nobody ever knows what you're going to talk about. They're getting there. They're finding it. They're telling a friend's telling a friend, your promoting is working, everything's working. And maybe by this time next week, we'll actually be hit the Big 10, but we won't count on anything in case that there's just a bunch of bots following you to rip apart your heart later, right?
Yeah. Well, when it passes the number, we'll talk about it. I am planning what video I'm going to do as like a celebration. I've put some prep into place for that one, but just a bit of prep.
Okay, nice. Well, good for you, Dan. It's always good to plan for something that may or may not eventually come.
Yeah.
Dan, in that video that you did, you talked about I love the video, by the way. People should watch this. So these videos are on Dan Norton's YouTube channel called at DJGigabyte. It's DJGigabyte. So you want to go to that channel and watch that if you can, unless you're here now and this is a running joke. Okay, so Dan, you talked about this battle deck and you talked about a serendipity. There was somebody with a dippity, like dippity dots or something, or zippity doo dot dippity a what?
Pheasantipity.
Okay, whatever you talked about, Dan, it doesn't matter. But I watched somebody this morning in another video who talked about that product and said I think it was that product. It was some kind of battle deck, if I recall. And they said that over the course of time, when they get their allocations, they've always had to take those battle decks. They need to take a bunch of junk to make sure they get the good stuff like Journey Together, Destined Rivals, whatever.
Yeah.
And they said for the first time ever in a long time, they got allocated virtually nothing these decks are almost not out there at all. And so they're selling for double the price already. So I will confirm with you at some point that this is indeed the same deck, but I do want you to be on the lookout for this product for me. And if you can buy it at a reasonable price, because we're going to go in and get the cards, or you think you can just get me the cards and you're going to buy the deck or whatever, I just
already
wanted
bought
to
you
alert
one.
you to the fact. What?
I already bought you one.
Okay, good. So for others out there, though, they are saying this could be a much more, not that anybody wants these products, we've already talked about that, but this particular product could have a much more limited distribution. And maybe the Pokemon card company, like we sort of alluded to in a very recent podcast, is focusing their efforts on more of the bigger printing things they need to do so that they can meet demand. Last thing I'll say about that is that Destined Rivals apparently is also much more, at the moment, less allocated. It's reasonably allocated, but not as much as people would still like to see. So not quite as much as Journey Together for sure. I still see pre-sales on those boxes up in the $300 range, which seems ridiculous to me. So certainly we'll hope that they run the printers to excess and finally those will come down.
Well, first of all, the store I bought the Dragapult decks from had tons. Like, they had their usual allocation, so maybe it's just some places are getting allocations cut. In terms of Destined Rivals, I think it's fine. Like, I think it's maybe people just trying to build the hype up and trying to do their pre-sales. I mean, a lot of people were still saying Journey Together was going to be limited, like, this far out, like a few weeks before. Like, a lot of stores I saw were saying, oh, well, our initial allocation, our initial shipment is so low. And then there was literally one store near me where their second shipment was the next day. So their first shipment was arrived for the Friday release, and their second shipment came on the Saturday. So wait until stuff is actually in stores before anyone starts buying stuff on the assumption that it's limited. Go, as I always say, speak to your local stores if you're trying to pre-order stuff. Most local stores will be pretty good about letting you pre-order, especially if they're a local store that does stuff at MSRP. They normally like to let their regulars pre-order, but don't go mad and start buying this at high prices until you actually know that it's a limited release product. I can't see any reason why they would have done so well for Journey Together and then nixed it back down for Destined Rivals. I mean, Destined Rivals is probably a bit more popular. Like, maybe that's it. Maybe there's more people trying to buy it, but I don't see it being an issue.
And one of the things that you have to ascertain or you have to try to predict in all of this, which is what Dan's alluding to, is the upside versus the downside of you buying early. So you lock in a box at 300 or something because you feel like it's going to go to 500 versus you wait because you hope it's going to come down to 250, but you might end up have to pay, or 200, but you have to end up paying 350. So you're trying to, range in that band of potential outcomes. And I'm on Dan's side on this one. I think definitely with so much of the social media outcry to Pokemon being print, that ultimately they have that incentive from a brand basis to continue to do that. I do want to clarify one thing I said because you brought me back down to earth here a minute ago, Dan, and you tend to do that for me a lot, and that's why I consider you such a wonderful friend. I don't know, I didn't bring any tissues, but Dan, when you talked about your game store, your LGS, that's like a lingo, like local game store. We don't say local game store. We're in the hobby. I'm not allowed to say that. So your LGS had those decks, and that video that I was mentioning that I watched, his assertion was that there was much less printed, and so the ones that were printed, they actually pushed to the LGSs so that they could have a situation there where they might have more chances for in-store battle play type event stuff, if that makes sense.
I mean, good. That sort of product should be prioritized to LGSs over anyone else because that's where it's going to sell. The people breaking packs on whatnot, they're not going to be selling decks to people starting to play.
Right. And Dan, I do want to say, since we talked about that first sale of the Journey Together Masters set, that was a $710 sale on eBay plus tax. And I was speaking to someone else as I continue to research and look for the purchase for my set. And so I was able to organize. I didn't buy it yet, but I just like to give you guys an idea of what the market's doing. Somebody asserted that the one that sold did not have reverse hollows. I'm not sure that's true. I don't actually believe that's true. But regardless, the next person I'm talking with is $850 at their price, which includes the entire set and maybe 8 to 10-ish promos along inside included within it. So at least gives us a range of what we're looking at for those of us. I've always said in these podcasts, be patient, be patient. I never am patient, and I hate that about myself because I try to put stuff in the binder as soon as possible. So when Dan arrives in town, he's got the back end of the binder to put all the variants he's gathered for me inside of that. His latest video talked a lot about that. There was all of a sudden Twilight Masquerade new variants, and there was Paradox Rift new variants, and all this other stuff. So I do try to pick these sets up and try to be reasonable with the pricing, but at least we understand so far Journey Together is not looking like a set that's going to be above 1,000 if you're patient and you continue to wait.
Yeah, I will say if a set sold without the reverses are such a low dollar value compared to like the SIRs and stuff.
Right.
I don't know if I've mentioned this to you yet. Don't worry about the staff pre-release promos for Journey Together because
Okay.
I'm on it. I don't know if you saw when I did a video a while back. There's actually 2 different versions of the staff promos for Journey Together. For some reason, some of them are actually stamped. You know, the way where they hit it and they're indented, and then some are raised up, so the lettering is like gold and comes off the card, like recent Worlds promos have been. So I've been working to put us, well, all 3 of us together, both sets. So I'm working on that. I think I've got at least the raised up sets sorted. I know at minimum you have 1 complete set of staff promos. I'm just working on getting the correct variants in the right place.
So Dan, let me get back to what you were just saying because you were talking about, did I watch the video? And I don't want to admit online or on screen or on air that I do or don't watch your videos. I'm going to tell you that I've been a bit jealous of you for a long time. And I think sometimes that's what these podcasts do. They allow for a little bit of true confessions. Why I'm jealous, I'm not sure. Should I be jealous? Possibly. Is there any reason at all for me to actually be jealous? No chance in heck. But the thing is, Dan, I sometimes that interpersonal conflict that you and I show on screen that, it leads me to a position where I cannot watch your videos at all. Although I do think you told me about those stamps and the variations just in a conversation we had back when we were once friends. So I've been talking to my therapist a lot about this, and I'm saying, like, what do I do? Because the guy's making me podcast every single day. I resent the heck out of it, and I don't even like him that much. And she says, one of the things you can start doing is watching some of his old videos and appreciate the effort he puts in, appreciate the time he puts in. Don't look as much at his face and hair because sometimes that, wrecks you as an American who doesn't understand the green UK hair lifestyle. But just listen to the caliber of the brilliance of the OG from the Pokemon community / I'm not allowed to say hobby. And so, Dan, I promise you going forward, I'm going to watch more of those videos just so you know, okay?
Okay, good. 1 extra viewer.
Thanks, Dan. One extra. They all count. You know what? They do all
They
count.
do. They all
Yeah.
count.
Okay. Good. Dan, I want to talk about 2 things today. They are absolutely. We're going to talk about nothing. The first thing I want to talk about is how do we keep track of whatever the heck cards we're both collecting? Okay. So I come with this question to you every single time. I'm like, Dan, I'm starting to get frustrated. I have no idea what we're missing, Dan. I don't know if we're missing 5 cards from this set, 22 from this set, 17 from this set. How many sets do we go back? And you're like, it's all up in my head there, David, somewhere. Don't worry about it. And then I get starting to thinking about you and your collection. And you got so much going on, buddy. I mean, not only are you collecting for me, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But you've also got these 217 different partially complete sets of some kind or another. So when do you get frustrated enough? Like I get frustrated enough every day and go, I can't live like this. I'm spinning out of control. I have to up my medicines. When do you get like that for when you are, for me, collecting for me or for yourself, when everything is this constant chaos of cards you need, and here comes the next set, Destined Rivals, and here comes the next set, and you don't necessarily finish up those other things?
Well, I'm always sorting something, so it's never a case where I'm just leaving stuff and it's all just there. It's that I'm always working on something. The frustration kind of goes away because at least with a lot of sets, I kind of just get to the point where it's like, okay, I know I've opened what we're going to open in terms of sealed product. Law's got what Law's going to get from events. And then I kind of look at it and go, is this set reasonable to try and complete? anytime soon. And if not, I just go, okay, we're going to just leave that where it is. I'm going to focus on one or two other things. Uh, Obviously, my priority always is trying to pick up these variants or promos. That's always the number one priority, because if I had a collection, I would rather have a collection that had all variants and all promos and no sets than have a collection that was all sets and no variants. Plus, sets, if it's stuff that comes from the packs, it's always well documented. It's just the set list. The variants and stuff, there is always that extra thing of, oh, if I don't make a note of this now, if I don't buy this now, is it going to be impossible to explain to someone in 6 months why this is different to this one, So that's why those are always going to take priority. But I am a lot more now focusing on finishing sets, or at least putting in like small goals for myself to go, okay, maybe it's not a full master set complete, but it's this partial set complete. I can say this set of promos is done, like this is done. Like after me and Law made that Build-A-Bear video, I just looked at it, I was like, I've been missing just the Snorlax for 5 years now, 4 years now. All I have to do is go on eBay and buy it, and then the Build-A-Bear set is done. Like, they're all promos from different sets, but that's a cool goal. That's a cool little mini set to be done with. So I did. And that's what I've been doing a little bit more of lately, is just setting really small goals and going, okay, if I get this, I can say that this is complete. And that's how I've just been helping myself hit goals when I can't afford to hit the major goals of completing everything.
So that's great. I think that's fantastic. Something as simple as that Snorlax Build-A-Bear story shows that you are actually thinking about it, which means you're starting to get those things done. And I think that's important for you as well. I know that we have worked more collaboratively over the last year or so to try to develop some spreadsheets that you ultimately populate with data regarding all of these different variants. Do you feel like you're keeping up with that? Like, for example, when you just did this video a day ago, or that came out today, actually, and you mentioned some of these Twilight Masquerade variants or whatever, are you comprehensive enough, active enough to immediately get those cards on that spreadsheet so you're able to maintain a continuity of everything that's coming out as immediately as possible?
The shared spreadsheet, no, because it's a bit behind. Like, I've got notes and other stuff on my own, but the shared spreadsheet, my plan is, it got so far behind that I knew it was going to be really difficult for me to catch up with without having you send me dozens and dozens of photos of what you've bought over the last couple of months. So my plan is just next time I come and visit you, which should probably be within the next month or so, I'll plan to, at that point, get the spreadsheet back on track, get it fully up to date, and then we can keep updating it as we go from there.
When you talk about the shared spreadsheet, isn't there a point at which it makes sense for you to, by the way, guys, audience that's listening, I hope you're enjoying. Dan and I are just having a conversation. Just sit there and enjoy it. It's going to be good. These are two guys talking about Pokemon and real issues in life. Can't the shared spreadsheet be used in a way that you immediately populate it, but know that parts of it are relevant to you as well? So you don't have to do the double work where you talk about keeping all these other notes and doing all this stuff. Can't you just, for efficiency purposes, get it all on a shared spreadsheet and then pull from it as you need for stuff that's specific to you, specific to me, just so you kind of have it all in one place and don't have to do double work and writing it all down over here and putting it here and then finally redeveloping the spreadsheet, etc.?
I mean, potentially, but what we were doing is we were just removing the cards completely from the spreadsheet once you had them. The spreadsheet was just what you were missing. So there is potential that we can create something. I can create something going forward that's just, maybe it's Scarlet Violet on, and we just say this is all Scarlet Violet on variants. And then I track yours, mine, and Law's on the same shared spreadsheet, and I add in anything when there's something new. Because, I mean, anything pre-Scarlet Violet, it's going to be maybe one card ever if there's some strange thing. That's not going to be updated very often. So potentially I can get on top of that and we can keep it going that way and get it updated that way. I know there's a few things I need to get updated for you. Like I know there's some Bulbapedia lists I need to get updated as well, which I've got
Okay, good.
notes
Because
as you
that's going
go
to lead
through.
into my last topic today. But I do want to just make sure my only piece of advice here for you is never update any information for either you or me immediately after you take any kind of allergy pills or allergy shots. Okay, Dan? Stay
Well,
away.
allergy pills I have to, because allergy pills I have to take once or twice a day, but the allergy pills just let me breathe normally. It's the allergy shots that throw me completely out of whack for a day.
Okay. All right, good. Dan, Bulbapedia, Wikipedia, somebody's pedia. What is the deal with maintaining information, and why? How does it all get vetted? So here's my last point. I'm going to give the whole topic, and then you can talk, and then we'll say goodbye. So I started thinking today. I started thinking about the Japanese Illustrator card that's always been the highest value card in the Japanese collecting community. The one that Logan Paul has, and that was regraded 100 times and finally got a 10.
Yeah.
And the one that SM Pratt said was going to be worth so much money, whatever, and still sells them for millions. Even though since the time of those videos, there is now acknowledged not to be 39 of them, there's acknowledged to be maybe 80 or 100 of them or more, possibly still coming out of Japan as what I'm going to refer to for purposes of this video as backdoor copies that were not necessarily intended to be released, but have found their way into the public these days.
Yeah.
So just
to clarify on that point real quick, in case people are concerned, we're not, when you say he says backdoor copies, we're not talking about like those test print cards where you think they were faked and they've been printed recently. You're still talking about copies that were printed at the time. It's just, no company is going to print exactly the right amount of copies they need. They're going to print way more. I know the TPCI now, when they do like stamped cards for Worlds, they obviously print a ton and then they put the champion, finalist, whatever stamps on. I know that each place gets 2 to 3 times as many as it actually needs stamped. And I think there's maybe been talk lately of potentially some of those have been backdoored out, but they're not counterfeit cards or they're not reprinted cards. They're cards that were made at the time, just the company makes too many in case there's some sort of issues with 1 or 2 copies, and now potentially more are making it to market.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Dan. I appreciate the clarification. And I'm not even necessarily trying to imply that they're stolen or anything. I'm trying to say, we're certainly aware. We did a podcast, a Coffee Talks podcast a long time ago. I don't want to name names again, but we had someone on who's been around in the community for ages, and he had, and he told us he had like 3 of the tropical the executor card. Dan, how do I refer to it?
The Tropical Mega Battle. It's the bilingual executor. It's the one that was actually from the tournament with the tie difference and being non-glossy and stuff.
And non-glossy. And as he received those cards as a kind of an award or something for being involved in running that tournament or whatever. My facts here don't really matter that much because I'm not trying to specifically say where they came from. I'm just trying to say they weren't stolen or anything. He has extra cards. Yeah. And that is the case for other people in this hobby. So not even when Dan's talking about, well, there could be some extras printed. We're aware of others that are printed of things sometimes in case ones are damaged when they get to the winners and other people, the folks that are supposed to receive them. But there could also be people, and there certainly are people that I'm aware of over the course of the years in the Pokemon world who've gotten things just because they were employees there or whatever. So all of those things add higher numbers to whatever people might think an actual number should be. So Dan and I used to compile these lists, and I still have some of the data somewhere, but Dan could do it again because he loves redoing all the data, reinventing the wheel. But he would tell me, David, there is, 16 copies of this top 8 card. I'm making this up completely of a given year. And you might look at the population reports or something, and we might say that there's not 16, there's actually 18 or 19 or something. So we start realizing that at some point, somehow these other copies got out there. The numbers don't necessarily jive. And a lot of people will say at that point, because you've got your negative people and your positive people in the hobby, I'm not going to talk about either one, I don't care. But they'll say, well, gosh, there's more of these, they're worth less. Or there's more of these, it should be worth nothing. Not really the case. I mean, some cards still have value regardless. Illustrators still have value even at double the numbers. But what gets me is...
it's more than double, because I will tell you, when I first started collecting around 2008, 2009, and people can go back on PokeGym and verify this. It was 6 illustrators. Was
Right.
always the number. It was exactly 6 illustrators. It was never questioned. It was always a fact. That's how many were out there. You can go and verify that. All the same people who talk about the illustrator today, 6. They would always tell you 6. And
Yep.
now, even if we look at legitimate copies that were given out through the correct means, it's 39. So that alone is 5 or 6 times as many, and then that's not counting any backdoor copies.
Right. And so my question of all of this, Dan, is why should we not develop? Why don't we have forget my name here, guys. I'm talking conceptually, not names. That's not how I am. I'm a conceptual guy. Why don't we have a backdoor registry? Why don't we have a place, a holding tank like Bulbapedia is, for all of the extra of all of the cards that we see or believe are out in additional numbers than what they would be, what they should have been. And that is not to go and point fingers for how they got there, because we could, there are plenty of channels that do that every single day. We know who those are. Your negative Nancy's are going to be out there talking about everything that's wrong with the hobby. But there's no denying that some of these cards are out there, even if we look at the most prominent one, the Pokemon illustrator, Japanese illustrator. So why don't we have something like that where the data can be compiled and somebody can add in and say, I know of 4 additional ones, I know of 2 additional ones. And essentially that data is compiled in a way that other people can reference it. Now, one last thing. When you do that, you've opened the floodgates, right? You're talking about Bulbapedia, Wikipedia. That's why I was trying to dovetail this all together, because you don't know if someone's putting it out there because it's legitimate information or they're just trying to create havoc and chaos in the numbers and rumor mill. So you need someone ultimately that can vet the information. And that was the other part of this question, Dan, is who gets to vet all this information anyways? Why is it that Nathan is the guy on Bulbapedia that knows everything and gets to vet everything and tell someone, like, I'm surprised there's any platforms like Wikipedia, whatever, that lets anybody put something out there, because it seems like there'd be so many people potentially putting so much out there information wise that so much of it could be inaccurate, and yet there wouldn't be a sufficient level of vetting to make sure any of that information is getting out there correctly.
Well, it is vetted. Bulbapedia is very heavily vetted. So anyone can put information on there, but Bulbapedia behind the scenes will log every change that's been made. So once every couple of days, for like Nathan deals with the TCG section, other people deal with other areas. Like Nathan can go on, he can look at what changes have been made and go through and say like, oh, that's inaccurate. Or come to me and say, Dan, do you know why this person made that change? Is that correct? So there is a vetting process, and there is a lot of references and stuff that are made. A lot of them, like if you in any Wikipedia page, if you go to the bottom, it has all the links and references and archived stuff backing up their facts.
Okay.
In terms of this stuff about a registry of backdoor copies, it's so hard to do because no person who's ever selling anything is going to admit my copy is one of the backdoor copies. They're just not going to do it. The only reason we kind of know what happened with illustrators is just because of it was a certain seller on, I think, Yahoo Japan was selling just too much at once. There was some illustrators, there was other Japanese trophies, there was basically every high-end Japanese card you could think of. This seller was selling multiple copies and other illustrators, and people at that point could say like, okay, we know there's no way they've legitimately compiled all these from original winners. Likewise, in the US, the Art Academy cards, the only way that we knew that all of those ones that went through collector's cash that you got your copies from, the only way we knew those were backdoored is because one of the original winners confirmed, no, I still have my 100 copies here sealed. So we knew there was no way they came from a legitimate winner. If that winner had opened and sold some of hers, there's no way we would have been able to verify that any of those were backdoor copies. It's only because we knew the exact location of those existing 100 copies. And so that's the kind of thing is, like, I'm so sure that there's some backdoored stuff from Worlds, and I'm talking trophy cards. Like, I don't want to point to whose trophy cards exactly are backdoored, because I don't want to deal with that hassle right now. But I only know of that because I know where some stuff came from. I know who they came from. I know prices that were paid. The only way you could prove definitively, though, that a trophy card has been backdoored is you would have to know where every copy of the trophy cards are at any one time. I mean, let's say for the 2007 number one, you have one, I have one. If another one came up for sale, if we were able to contact the third winner and they confirmed that they still had theirs, we would then know definitively that one that was for sale was hypothetically a fourth copy. And then that's the only way we'd know for definite that one was backdoored. Because if rare stuff comes up for sale, it's so hard to have kept track of everything that and like I said, no one's ever going to go, oh, my copy's backdoored. They're going to go, oh no, I got this one, like I got it from a friend, this guy got it from a winner, whatever. But they can't provide the whole paper trail back, but there's no proof that it's
I believe
not.
you. So I hear what you're saying, and I think it makes complete and total sense. So I'm going to shift the narrative now to something else, to a different idea, because what you're essentially telling me is this is not there is not a functionally, efficient way we can do this. So let's go back, and I'm going to parallel with this concept of a master set. Hey, Dan and David, what is it? Do I have a regular set, a complete set, a master set, the master of master sets, blah, blah, blah? What if we change the discussion on all of these cards, that when we deal with a card that we believe has any limitation at all, in other words, it's not just possibly mass produced, that we say we are aware of this many cards that were officially distributed? Like, we use some language that is indicative of the fact that any card out there, we know how many should have been officially distributed, but we don't necessarily know if there's other copies out there. So that if we get any accurate number, now I'm not sure, based on everything you said about Illustrator cards, what that official number is. I've always heard, going forward from when you talk about 6 or whatever, I've always heard 39 is now kind of the number I hear official. You'll correct me in 1 second because I can't hear a thing you're saying. And then, but now people say 80 or whatever. So the discussion, somebody writes, it could be, if they want to be accurate, because so many people aren't accurate, right? So many people are, the pack is unweighed, but they don't say it's unscanned. The pack is light, but so that people use words to their own advantage instead of transparently saying, the pack is either not weighed, not scanned, not searched. You put it all in or you don't put any of it in. Same thing with these card numbers.
It kind of just is basically because, I mean, so few cards actually have definitive, this is how many were given out. Like I say, we can do it for the trophy cards, the English trophy cards, because we know how many winners of worlds there were. But even the champion and finalist stamped cards vary so much year to year. It's so hard to keep track of who is supposed to have got what, because, some games get 2, some games get 1. There was one year where, I think it was in Tokyo, the person who got a champion didn't get a finalist or a semi-finalist, but they did get a quarter finalist, and it's so hard to do that. But one, you kind of just have to assume as a reference point that all cards could potentially have backdoor copies. But I think people get too bogged down in the idea of exactly how many copies are out there of stuff, because, like I say, other than the trophy cards where we know it's 3 or 6 or 12, depending on the year, and stuff like the Art Academy where we know it was 100 because they all went to one person, stuff like a champion stamped card, if you're buying a champion stamped card and you love this card, are you really going to say, oh, well, this was one of the years where there was 30 official copies given out rather than 24 official copies, I don't want it, or I'm going to pay less? Like, it's still a champion stamped card. It's either up for sale or it's not. I don't know. I don't think I don't think it would be that useful to people, because of the fact that, again, 99% of cards you cannot get that data for. And of course, then when it comes to people selling cards, no one's going to put that disclaimer in when they're selling. They're going to say there are 6 of these cards. They're not going to say there were 6 officially given and some might have been backdoored.
Because inaccurate information always sells better than the next thing. So why not? Why not rip off the general public? So Dan, once again, you've told me all of my ideas are horrible. I have no good thoughts in my head. why you've humbled me. Why am I even involved in the community, in the hobby, in the collection? But I have to say that I think you've convinced me that that, you know what, if I was one person that needed to buy a trophy card, ultimately, I guess it doesn't matter how many are out there, because I'm going to look at previous sales, and I'm going to look at what there's ones currently selling for, and I'm going to try and figure out, if it's 40,000, can I pay 38 or 39? And if it's 140,000, can I pay 120,000 or 90,000? Right? I'm going to have some basis of what I need to pay based on the existing or previous sale valuations, regardless of how many, if there's exactly what they say, or there's an extra one hanging around or something.
And it's so much more depends on.
I'm humbled. Now go ahead and finish.
I would say it's so much more depends on how many are actually up for sale at one time.
Right.
You know, like we've been looking with the Zoroark Master Ball this week, because 2 of the countries just had their Master Ball tournament in Asia, and that card has the same distribution numbers as the Terapagos that we bought earlier in the year, and it has a way lower distribution than the Mew, but the Mew is still selling for a lot more because it's a 151 card. But the actual total distribution of that Zoroark hasn't mattered. It's purely been how many people are wanting to sell it. So if you've got a card that was given to winners of tournaments, whether it was given to 6 winners or 12 winners, if there's only 2 winners wanting to sell, effectively that card's got the same rarity right now. Unless you're willing to wait the years for someone to change their mind, it matters how many are in front of you, how many can I buy right now. It doesn't matter what those 10 people have got that they're not selling, or those 20 people have got that they're not selling. These are the people selling, you know?
Dan, do you remember any of these rules when you're out there spending my money?
Nope. Just spend all of your money until I've got everything you need.
All right, my friend. Good discussion about nothing that went a lot longer than it should have. But it was enjoyable as always. And hopefully people understand this is what we do. We don't know why we do it. We'll probably never do it again. If we ever do it again, we'll claim we didn't do it. And we're apologizing for what we shouldn't have done in the first place. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. Put a comment down. There's only one of you that comments every video. It's like 107 comments he's up to now, because he's sitting in the middle of the Amazon rainforest with nothing better to do than sit with his yogi and talk about philosophies of life. So, hey, Steven, how are you? Yeah, that's it for me. I'm gonna put my hand up, Dan. Get us out of here.
Yep. Tomorrow, I don't know what we'll be doing, because I don't know about recording tomorrow, because Laura's leaving for a regionals tomorrow, so we've got to get Laura all sorted in a way. So if there's no Coffee Talks tomorrow, you will see another video from me, but it might be Coffee Talks. Who knows? Either way, I'll see you again tomorrow. Goodbye.
Wait a minute. And you said if there's no Coffee Talks tomorrow, but this one will be up, right?
Well, yeah, but tomorrow from when people are seeing this one.
Okay, fair enough, Dan. Thanks.
This one we're recording right now will be up tomorrow for us, but I don't know if we can record tomorrow for us because of having to get law sorted in the way to regionals.
Why is it got to be so complicated? Can you send me like just a calendar and let me know when my obligations are fulfilled, Dan?
I would happily send you a calendar if I thought you would use it.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Nice to see you guys. Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Coffee Talks with Dan Norton and David Person, with music by More Than Never and artwork by Lore Norton. A special thanks to all our Patreon members. Join us again next time.
But they don't want you to have a